Hey everyone, ready to dive into something kind of surprising today? We're talking fire alarms.
Always a hot topic,
You
right?
got that right. But seriously, we're digging into overcoming false alarm sources from MSAsafety.com. And let me tell you, some of the stuff that can accidentally set these things off is, well, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, you'd be amazed what can trip them up.
Right. Like jet engines I kind of get, but we're talking truck exhaust. Even just grinding, metal grinding, can cause a false alarm. So help us out here, expert speaker.
Yeah.
What makes these everyday things act like, well, fires?
It's all about how the older alarms are usually built, you know? They're looking for one big clue heat spiking up fast or a sudden burst of light. Problem is, a jet engine's heat or sparks flying off grinding, those mimic the one thing the alarm's looking for, even without actual flames.
So it's not that the alarm's broken, it's more like these other things are masters of disguise.
Exactly. It's like camouflage, but instead of blending in, they're standing out in a way that screams fire to the poor alarm.
Sneaky. Yeah. And a little unnerving when you think about it. So how do we outsmart these tricksters? This MSA safety document mentions UV detection being solar blind. That sounds kind of high-tech, almost sci-fi. What's that all about?
It's pretty cool, actually. Solar blind just means these detectors are built to ignore sunlight. Big problem solver for false alarms on sunny days. They hone in on a specific type of ultraviolet light wavelength that's super strong in real flames, but basically non-existent in sunlight.
Clever. But there's got to be a catch, right?
Of course. As brilliant as it is, arc welding, for example, also kicks out that same UV light.
So even with fancy UV detectors, we're back to those mimics, using the same disguise as a real fire. Sounds like we need to step it up. What's next?
Time for UV-IR technology. This combines the UV detection with infrared IR for short. IR is all about the heat signature of a fire, specifically a rapid surge in carbon dioxide or CO2, that stuff we exhale, but it also comes from burning wood, plastics, all that.
Okay, so by needing both the UV light and the CO2 spike, UV-IR alarms are way better at knowing the difference.
Exactly. It's like double-checking your work. Super helpful in places like factories where you've got welding and stuff going on that could trip up a simpler alarm.
Makes sense. But what about, say, a campfire that's got both the light and the heat? Would a UV-IR alarm freak out over that?
Great question. It shows you're thinking. Here's the thing. UV-IR is definitely smarter, but it's best at what we call hydrocarbon fires. Stuff like wood, plastics, gasoline, things with hydrocarbons in them. A campfire, yeah, it's hot and bright, but it might not trip a UV-IR alarm as reliably because wood burns a bit differently. It has a different fingerprint, you could say.
So it's not just about having an alarm, it's about having the right alarm. Speaking of which, this document also mentions even more advanced stuff, dual or triple IR systems, and something called MSIR, and don't worry, I had to look it up too, multispectral infrared artificial neural network. Those sound crazy high-tech. Break it down for us, expert speaker. What makes these the super detectives of the fire alarm world?
Happy to. These technologies are all about getting super specific, like telling the difference between a dog barking and a car horn. They're both loud, but there are subtle differences that tell you what's what. These systems use multiple infrared wavelengths, so they're looking at the heat signature in way more detail. And then they use fancy algorithms, like neural networks, to analyze those tiny differences and decide, yep, that's definitely a fire, or, nah, that's just someone's toast burning. They can even analyze things like how much the flames are flicker, or the size of the smoke particles to make a really accurate judgment.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like giving the alarm a brain. So why should all this matter to our listeners? Why get into the nitty-gritty science of fire alarms?
Because knowledge is power, right? When you understand how these things work, you can make smarter choices about which one is right for your situation, whether it's your home, your workplace, wherever. It's about maximizing safety and minimizing those annoying and often expensive false alarms.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, this has been one seriously eye-opening deep dive. We've gone from basic smoke detectors to, AI fire analysis. It's amazing how technology keeps evolving to keep us safe.
It really is remarkable.
But it also makes you wonder, right? If you were building the next big thing in fire safety, what would you focus on? What would it take to make these systems even smarter, more reliable, give people real peace of mind? Think about it, and until next time, stay curious.